Something is coming for you on July 17th, and there is nothing you can do to stop it. That sentence should catch you off guard for a second. Not because this is dangerous to you, because it is dangerous to everything that has been holding you back. July 17th is not sitting quietly on a calendar page. It is a divine appointment, written before you took your first breath, and heaven has been counting down to it long before you ever noticed anything shifting in your spirit. The world will treat it like any other Friday. Heaven is treating it like a doorway, and it is about to open whether you feel ready or not. I am not here to stir emotion for its own sake. I am here to announce something moving toward you that cannot be talked out of arriving. Ephesians 2 verse 10 says, "For we are his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus unto good works, which God hath before ordained that we should walk in them." Before ordained. That phrase covers this exact hour, this exact day, and the assignment still hidden just beyond what you can currently see. There is an urgency rising right now, and it is not meant to frighten you into compliance. It is meant to wake up a hunger that has been sleeping under years of routine. You may have already noticed small signs of it. A hunger for prayer that surprised you, a restlessness during ordinary conversations, a sense that something in your spirit has been leaning forward even while circumstances stayed exactly the same. None of that has been accidental. Let me be honest about what this actually costs. You are not just stepping into purpose. You are being equipped for it, and equipping requires surrender first. Isaiah 43 verse 19 says, "Behold, I will do a new thing. Now it shall spring forth. Shall ye not know it?" You will not need to manufacture this feeling. You will simply know it, the way you know a familiar voice in a crowded room. Over the sections ahead, we will walk through exactly what this day is preparing to release in you. By the time we reach your launch day, you will understand exactly why heaven marked this date for you. Something is coming that will not just visit your life. It intends to move in. Stay with me. 1. Power doesn't visit the passive. Here is the part most people skip past too quickly. God may have already marked this day, but you still have to answer it. Power does not fall on the passive. It fills the willing. Nobody stumbles into divine strength by accident. It has never worked that way, and it is not going to start now. It is a sacred exchange that begins the moment your heart stops negotiating and starts surrendering. Your yes, spoken honestly even before the full plan is visible, is the exact thing that unlocks what is coming. Are you willing to trust God's hand before his full intention is clear? Are you willing to say, "Send me," even without knowing precisely where that sending will lead? This is not the moment for careful negotiation. It is a moment for consecration. Heaven is not scouting for spectators. It is searching for vessels willing to be used. God never manipulates a person into surrender. He simply invites and waits to see who actually answers. Think about a line worker standing beneath a downed power line after a storm, testing the current carefully before finally flipping the switch that sends electricity flowing through the whole grid again. Nothing moves through that line until the connection is confirmed safe and ready. Your yes functions the same way. It is the connection that determines whether power actually flows or simply waits, fully available, on the other side of a switch nobody has thrown yet. Notice something important about that image. The line worker does not manufacture the electricity. It was already generated somewhere else, already available, already waiting to travel down the line the moment the connection is made. In the same way, you are not being asked to generate power that does not already exist. You are simply being asked to become the connection point that allows what already exists to actually reach where it is needed. I know the enemy has tried to wear down your resolve, delay your obedience, and distract you long enough that you forgot what you were originally hungry for. But heaven is not interested in keeping you comfortable. You were not created to drift through your years. You were made to move with purpose, to carry light into rooms that have forgotten what light looks like. Philippians 4 verse 13 reminds you plainly, "I can do all things through Christ, which strengtheneth me." That is a liberating promise, because it means you were never required to feel powerful before receiving power. You only need to be honest about how badly you need him. 2 Timothy 1 verse 6 adds something practical to this. Wherefore I put thee in remembrance that thou stir up the gift of God which is in thee. Stirring implies something already placed inside you, simply waiting on your willingness to move it. Here is what this actually looks like in practice this week. Name, specifically and out loud if you can, one thing God has been asking you to say yes to that you have been quietly avoiding. Not a vague spiritual yes, a specific one. Write it down if that helps you stop negotiating with yourself. Your surrender was never weakness. It has always been the access point for the very strength you have been asking for. Delay feels harmless in the moment, which is exactly why it works so effectively on people who genuinely intend to obey eventually. Every day a decision stays unmade. Comfort quietly strengthens its grip, making tomorrow's yes just slightly harder than today's would have been. This is not meant to pressure you into rash decisions. It is meant to remind you that clarity rarely improves simply by waiting longer for perfect conditions to arrive. The willingness available to you right now is the willingness that actually matters. 2. Heaven isn't visiting, it's invading. God is not tiptoeing into this season. He is not offering a polite introduction before quietly stepping back into the background of your life. What is approaching will not feel like a soft breeze brushing past you. It will feel like weather strong enough to rearrange the landscape, taking down what was built without him and raising up what was always meant to stand. Heaven does not knock politely and wait for permission to redecorate. When God moves into a space, the space stops being ordinary. Joel 2 verse 28 carries this promise, "And it shall come to pass afterward, that I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh." Notice that word, not a sprinkle, a pour, the kind that does not check first whether the container is ready to receive that much at once. You are not simply being invited into a season of curiosity about God. You are being invited into collision, where the natural finally meets something bigger than itself and has no choice but to make room. Old ceilings you assumed were permanent will not survive contact with what is coming. A dam operator opens a floodgate at the exact scheduled hour, releasing water that has been building pressure behind concrete for months, not gradually but all at once, because the moment finally arrived and there was no reason left to hold it back any longer. That is closer to what this outpouring actually looks like, not a trickle you have to search for, a release that finds you. Notice that the dam operator does not create the water pressure in that moment. It had already been accumulating steadily, unseen for a long time before the gate ever opened. What looks sudden from the outside was actually the result of patient accumulation on the inside. Whatever has felt like slow, invisible pressure building in your own spirit recently may not have been stagnation at all. It may have simply been accumulation, waiting for its appointed hour. When Jesus taught his disciples to pray in Matthew 6 verse 10, "Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth, as it is in heaven," he was not offering decoration for a prayer. He was teaching them to declare an invasion, not someday in the abstract, but now, in the specific ordinary places you occupy. Your kitchen, your commute, your inbox, none of it stays untouched once heaven decides to move in rather than merely visit. Expect the rhythm of your ordinary days to start carrying weight it did not carry before. A conversation in line at the store might suddenly matter more than you expected. An idea might arrive with unusual clarity attached to it, almost like it was handed to you rather than generated by you. This is not random. It is what happens when a life stops being merely occupied and starts being inhabited. A practical way to recognize this shift as it happens: pay closer attention this week to the ordinary settings you normally move through on autopilot, your commute, your kitchen, your inbox. Ask quietly whether something in those spaces feels different, weightier, more alive than it did a month ago. You are not looking for something dramatic. You are simply learning to notice when a familiar room stops feeling merely familiar. That noticing itself is part of what an invasion actually feels like from the inside, long before it ever becomes visible to anyone watching from the outside. 3. This power makes you dangerous to darkness. Something shifts in the atmosphere the moment God fully occupies a life, and it is not subtle. Hell notices. You stop simply walking into rooms, wondering if anything unseen is paying attention to you, and you start walking in knowing exactly what is watching, and knowing it is uneasy about your presence there. There is a reason the enemy has spent so much energy trying to wear you down, distract you, and delay the moment you finally said yes without reservation. He was never afraid of religious habits or comfortable language about faith. What actually unsettles darkness is authentic, spirit-formed authority, the kind that breaks patterns rather than simply describing them. That is the exact power Jesus referenced in Luke 10, verse 19. Behold, I give unto you power to tread on serpents and scorpions, and over all the power of the enemy, and nothing shall by any means hurt you. That is not a comforting verse for people who want to stay in the background. It is a battlefield verse, written for people ready to move forward with fire in their chest instead of fear in their throat. You were never meant to carry fear into your future. You were meant to carry fire instead. That is why this kind of impartation feels disruptive rather than soothing. It replaces timidity with boldness that surprises even you the first time it shows up. The anxious whisper that used to shape your prayers gets replaced with a steadiness that commands atmospheres instead of merely hoping they improve. Think of a sonar operator listening carefully for a signal moving through dark water, unable to see anything directly but trained to notice exactly what does not belong there. Discernment like this does not require visibility, it requires attentiveness. You are being trained toward that same kind of spiritual awareness, sensing what darkness is doing even in rooms where nothing looks obviously wrong on the surface. A skilled sonar operator does not react to every sound in the water. Most of what passes through is ordinary, harmless background noise that does not require a response. What matters is trained attentiveness that can distinguish signal from static, threat from simple movement. The same discipline applies to you. Growing discernment does not mean treating every uncomfortable feeling as spiritual warfare. It means becoming quiet and attentive enough to actually tell the difference. James 4 verse 7 puts the promise plainly, submit yourselves therefore to God, resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Not eventually, not if conditions align perfectly. He will flee, because submission to heaven strips darkness of whatever jurisdiction it assumed it still had. Ephesians 6 verse 12 names exactly who this confrontation is actually against. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world. God is not simply sending you into that reality unarmed. He is equipping you for it, backing you with authority you did not manufacture and cannot lose through mere circumstance. This is not about performing for an audience. It is about becoming someone hell has genuine reason to notice. This kind of authority rarely announces itself loudly. It shows up instead in the small refusals nobody applauds. The moment you decline to gossip when everyone else joins in, the conversation where you choose truth over comfort, the private prayer you pray before anyone else is awake. None of that looks dramatic from the outside. All of it matters enormously in the places you cannot see. This week, choose one specific area where you have been quietly tolerating something you know does not belong and address it directly rather than continuing to manage around it. 4. Your weakness is the launchpad. Power is rarely proven by how loudly someone can announce it. It shows up more honestly in how deeply a person trusts once the noise finally settles and only the quiet truth remains. There will be a moment after all the declarations and bold prayers when you sit alone with your own soul and realize plainly that you still feel weak. Doubts persist. Old bruises still ache in places no one else can see. And in that quiet, the temptation whispers that you are simply not strong enough to carry what is coming. But grace has never once been intimidated by your weakness. God is not avoiding the fragile places in you. He is aiming his power directly at them. He does not wait for a flawless version of you to show up before he moves. Impartation was never about achieving perfection. It has always been about permission, the moment you stop hiding your cracks and instead invite him straight into them. Paul understood this without flinching. 2 Corinthians 12 verse 9 records exactly what he heard in the middle of his own struggle. My grace is sufficient for thee, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. That is not a soft spiritual platitude offered to make pain feel smaller. It is an actual strategy, describing power completed not in your strength, but in the specific place where your strength finally runs out. There is a moment in glass-blowing worth borrowing here. The material is gathered at the mouth of the furnace, at its most vulnerable and formless, and it becomes usable exactly at that point, shaped into something with purpose, precisely because it was soft enough to be shaped at all. If it had cooled and hardened first, nothing new could have been made from it. Your weakness works the same way. It is not disqualifying. It is the very condition that makes you shapeable. There is a reason skilled glassblowers never rush that gathering moment. Move too quickly and the shape collapses before it can hold form. Move too slowly and the glass hardens before it is ready. Timing matters as much as heat does. If your own season of feeling shapeable has stretched longer than you expected, that is not evidence something has gone wrong. It may simply mean the shaping is still happening carefully, at exactly the pace required to hold what it is eventually meant to carry. Isaiah 40 verse 29 to 31 lays this out with striking clarity. He giveth power to the faint, and to them that have no might he increaseth strength. They that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. Power was never designed to flow toward people who already feel powerful. It flows toward the faint, toward the exhausted, toward the ones who have nothing left to prove and everything left to receive. Psalm 34 verse 18 confirms where God actually positions himself. The Lord is nigh unto them that are of a broken heart, and saveth such as be of a contrite spirit. He does not distance himself from what is broken. He draws close to it, gathering fragments and reshaping them into something that eventually silences shame rather than reinforcing it. If you have ever quietly wondered why God would choose someone like you, that is actually the right question to be asking, because he consistently chooses the ones who already know how badly they need him. This week, resist the urge to hide the specific area where you feel least capable. Bring it honestly into prayer instead, naming it directly rather than dressing it up. That exact place, the one you have been tempted to conceal, is precisely where his strength has been waiting to meet you. Resist the temptation to rush past this stage, looking for something that feels more impressive to talk about. Weakness acknowledged honestly is not a detour on the way to real ministry. It is frequently the actual foundation of it. Some of the most trusted voices you know did not earn that trust through polish. They earned it by staying honest about the places they once felt disqualified, and letting that honesty become the very thing other people could finally relate to. 5. Get ready for supernatural clarity. There comes a point where clarity finally begins speaking louder than the noise surrounding it. It is not only your spirit growing stronger through this season, your vision is sharpening too. Fog that has blurred your path for longer than you would like to admit is starting to lift, not because you worked harder to see through it, but because God does not release power without also releasing sight. This is not ordinary insight arriving from careful analysis. This is something you will recognize in the spirit long before your natural reasoning catches up to explain it. Assignments that once felt impossibly tangled are about to simplify. Doors that seemed permanently shut are about to swing open without the struggle you expected. People you were genuinely unsure about will be revealed clearly, one way or the other. Isaiah 30 verse 21 promises exactly this kind of guidance. And thine ears shall hear a word behind thee, saying, This is the way, walk ye in it, when ye turn to the right hand, and when ye turn to the left. That is not poetic exaggeration. It is a specific guarantee that the same God filling you with fire is also fully willing to lead you with wisdom. You will not need to chase after endless confirmation. Peace will simply follow the instruction once it arrives. Picture an optometrist adjusting lenses one careful click at a time during an eye exam, asking which option looks clearer, better or worse, until suddenly an ordinary blur snaps into sharp, undeniable focus. Nobody has to convince you the correct lens is working. You simply see it immediately and without argument. Clarity from God tends to arrive with that same unmistakable click. What makes that moment so recognizable is the contrast it creates. You cannot fully appreciate how blurry something was until the correct lens reveals what you had been straining to see all along. In the same way, some of the confusion you have carried for months may only become obvious in hindsight, once genuine clarity finally arrives and shows you, by comparison, just how much fog you had grown used to living inside. Or James 1 verse 5 removes any excuse for staying confused. If any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God, that giveth to all men liberally, and upbraideth not, and it shall be given him. He is not withholding understanding from you as some kind of test. He is simply waiting on the invitation to release it. Proverbs 3 verse 5 to 6 gives the posture this clarity actually requires. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. This is not passive waiting dressed up as spirituality. It is active trust, choosing obedience even before every detail has been fully explained to you. A practical way to steward this over the coming days. Before making any significant decision, pause and ask specifically whether it aligns with what you already sense God has been showing you, rather than defaulting immediately to old patterns of reasoning. Clarity rewards attention. It rarely competes loudly for it. It is worth adding one honest caution here. Genuine clarity from God rarely contradicts wisdom or isolates you from people who love you well. If an impression you are sensing consistently pushes you towards secrecy, urgency without patience, or disregard for trusted counsel, slow down and test it before acting on it fully. Real clarity tends to bring peace alongside conviction, not chaos disguised as certainty. 6. This impartation requires your preparation. Clarity without preparation quickly becomes wasted revelation. It is one thing to see exactly where God is leading. It is another thing entirely to be genuinely ready once that door finally opens. Heaven is not only speaking right now, it is positioning, and the real question worth sitting with is not simply what God is doing, but whether you are currently a vessel He can trust with it. Divine impartation was never designed as a quick, casual transaction. It is a sacred partnership that requires both your willingness and your readiness together. God does not pour fresh anointing into a cluttered, distracted, or divided heart. His power settles instead on those who have made room, cleared unnecessary weight, and postured themselves with genuine reverence rather than performance. You do not need to be flawless to be prepared. You do need to be honest. Psalm 51 verse 10 captures this posture precisely. Create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a right spirit within me. That is not simply poetic language recited out of habit. It describes actual capacity. A cleaner vessel can hold more without leaking what it was given to carry. God consistently prepares before He pours. That is why distractions have been quietly clearing out of your life recently, sometimes painfully, sometimes without a clear explanation at the time. Unnecessary connections faded. Old numbing cycles lost their grip. None of that was random. It was preparation disguised as loss. If some of that clearing has felt like grief rather than gain, that response makes sense and does not need to be rushed past. Even necessary preparation can feel like subtraction before it feels like readiness. Give yourself permission to acknowledge what has genuinely been lost in this process, while also trusting that the space it created was never meant to stay empty. It was cleared specifically to make room for something with far greater weight than what used to occupy it. James 4 verse 8 extends the invitation directly. Draw nigh to God, and He will draw nigh to you. Cleanse your hands, ye sinners, and purify your hearts, ye double-minded. God genuinely wants closeness with you, but He is waiting on your approach, rather than forcing an entrance into a heart still crowded with everything else competing for space. Matthew 5 verse 6 names the posture that actually qualifies someone to receive. Blessed are they which do hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled. That hunger itself functions as the invitation. It has never been about arriving already qualified. It has always been about arriving genuinely empty enough to be filled. Practically, this week might look like removing one specific distraction that has been quietly crowding out your attention toward God, whether that is an excess of noise, a habit that dulls your hunger, or simply an unwillingness to sit still long enough to actually listen. A preparation is rarely dramatic. It usually just looks like clearing enough space for something else to finally land. Do not mistake this kind of preparation for legalism dressed up in spiritual language. Holiness in this context is not a scoreboard measuring how well you performed this week. It is simply readiness, the posture of a heart that says, whatever needs to be removed can be removed, and whatever needs to be realigned can be trusted into His hands. That kind of surrender rarely feels impressive from the outside. It simply feels honest, and honest is exactly what heaven has been waiting for. 7. Expectation is what unlocks activation. Once your heart has been made honest and your spirit postured toward readiness, heaven is still looking for one more ingredient before power actually moves. Expectation. Not the timid hope that whispers, maybe something will happen eventually, but the bold, settled conviction that declares something must happen because of exactly who God has already proven Himself to be. Mark 11 verse 24 states this without hedging. What things soever ye desire, when ye pray, believe that ye receive them, and ye shall have them. That is not a gentle suggestion offered as encouragement. It is closer to a blueprint. Genuine faith does not wait until it can already see the outcome before it commits to believing. It believes first, and that belief becomes the actual bridge connecting the natural to the supernatural. A sprinter loaded into the starting blocks leans forward with weight already committed to motion before the starting gun has even fired. Nothing about that posture is passive. It is expectation made physical, readiness that refuses to wait for permission before committing fully to what is about to happen. Notice that the sprinter's posture would look strange, even foolish, to someone who did not know a race was about to start. Leaning forward with such intensity before anything has visibly happened only makes sense in light of what the sprinter already expects to occur. Your own posture of expectation may look similarly unusual to people around you who are not tracking what use is coming. That is not a problem to solve. It is simply what genuine expectation looks like from the outside before the outcome has confirmed it was justified all along. You are not here simply to wait patiently for blessing to eventually arrive on its own schedule. You are here to actively pursue it with belief that moves your feet, not belief that only moves your emotions. Hebrews 11 verse 6 reminds you plainly why this matters. Without faith it is impossible to please Him, for he that cometh to God must believe that He is, and that He is a rewarder of them that diligently seek Him. Faith was never optional decoration on the journey. It is the fuel that keeps the whole impartation actually moving forward. Expectation changes how you carry yourself daily, and it changes how you pray. Vague requests give way to specific declarations. You stop simply hoping something shifts and start speaking as though the shift has already begun, because in the Spirit, in many real ways, it already has. Try this practically over the next several days. Replace one vague prayer you tend to repeat out of habit with a specific declaration instead. Instead of asking generally for breakthrough, name the exact situation and speak to it directly the way you would address something you actually expected to respond. This is not about manipulating outcomes through the right words. It is about training your own posture out of passive hoping and into active, believing expectation. 8. Your story is about to become a weapon. God rarely moves in your life only to display raw power. He moves to write something that outlasts the moment itself. When He delivers you from something, He is not simply handing you a private victory to quietly enjoy. He is handing you a weapon, and that weapon is your own story. Everything you have walked through, even the parts you assumed were simply wasted pain, has been quietly sharpened into something with eternal purpose. What the enemy hoped would permanently bury you is becoming exactly what God intends to use to help break chains off of someone else entirely. This is not the season to keep your scars hidden out of embarrassment. It is the season to hold them up honestly, because while the world often tries to silence genuine brokenness, heaven consistently amplifies it. Revelation 12 verse 11 puts it with striking directness. And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. Your testimony was never merely personal decoration. It carries actual overcoming power, capable of reaching people still trapped inside battles you have already survived. Think of a search and rescue handler releasing a trained dog at the exact scent line, trusting the animal's training completely to lead straight towards someone who cannot yet call for help themselves. Your story functions the same way once it is finally released honestly. It moves toward exactly the person who needs to hear proof that someone else made it through. The handler does not need to know exactly where the search will lead before releasing the dog forward. Trust in the training is enough to begin. In the same way, you do not need to know exactly who your story will reach or how it will land before you offer it honestly. You simply need to release it, trusting that what God has already done in you knows precisely where it needs to go next. Psalm 40 verse 3 captures the progression beautifully. And he hath put a new song in my mouth, even praise unto our God. Many shall see it and fear, and shall trust in the Lord. Notice the order carefully. First he lifts you. Then he gives you a genuine song. Then others watch and begin trusting him too, simply because your story reached them honestly. Or 2 Corinthians 1 verse 4 explains exactly why this comfort was ever given to you in the first place. Comfort received was never meant to end with you feeling merely comfortable. It was given so you could become a source of comfort for someone else, walking through what you have already survived. Your history is quietly becoming a ministry, whether or not it ever involves a stage or a title. You do not need a polished testimony to begin sharing what you have lived through. This week, consider telling one honest sentence of your story to one specific person who might genuinely need to hear it, not as a performance, but as an offering. You are not required to have the whole story wrapped up neatly with a bow. You simply need to be willing to say, honestly, that you were somewhere difficult, and God met you there. That single sentence has weight most people underestimate until they actually speak it out loud. July 17th is your launch day. What has been a private, mostly invisible process is about to become a public assignment. The pressing, the stretching, the surrender you have already walked through, all of it has been building toward this moment. You are not simply being stirred anymore, you are being sent. This is no longer only about what you have already survived. It is about what you are now being called to build. God does not fill a vessel simply so it can sit full and satisfied. He fills it so it can overflow with genuine purpose. You have been refined, and now you are being launched into a level of boldness you likely did not know you had access to yet. Isaiah 6 verse 8 captures the exact posture this moment requires. Also, I heard the voice of the Lord saying, "Whom shall I send, and who will go for us?" Then said I, "Here am I, send me." That was never the response of someone who had everything figured out in advance. It was the honest cry of someone who had already been touched by holiness and simply could not return to living as though nothing had changed. You have been marked in that same way. Philippians 1 verse 6 makes the promise unmistakably clear, being confident of this very thing, that he which hath begun a good work in you will perform it until the day of Jesus Christ. He does not start something in you only to abandon it halfway through. Picture an air traffic controller granting final clearance for takeoff, the exact moment a plane that has been fully fueled, checked, and positioned on the runway finally receives permission to actually move. Everything necessary was already in place well before that clearance came. The clearance itself did not create the readiness. It simply released what had already been prepared. If you have felt like you have been sitting on the runway longer than you expected, fully fueled and fully checked, but still waiting, take heart in what that image actually reveals. The waiting itself was not wasted time. It was final preparation, ensuring that when clearance finally comes, nothing about the launch will be rushed, incomplete, or unstable once it leaves the ground. Matthew 28 verse 19 to 20 is not a gentle suggestion tucked at the end of a story. It is a direct commissioning. Go ye therefore, and teach all nations. And lo, I am with you always, even unto the end of the world. That same commission is pressing on you right now. You have waited long enough. It is time to go. Going does not necessarily mean relocating or launching something publicly visible right away. For many people, it starts smaller and closer to home. A conversation you have been avoiding, an obedience you have been postponing, a door you have been staring at without walking through it. Identify one specific step, however small, that this commission is asking of you right now, and take it before the week ends. Momentum in the Spirit tends to build from exactly that kind of first honest movement, not from waiting until the whole path becomes visible at once. This is where everything shifts. Waiting turns into walking. Identity turns into genuine impact. You are no longer simply chasing after power somewhere out ahead of you. You are becoming it, carrying it the way a river carries current rather than merely holding still water. What was placed in you was never meant to sit dormant, fading quietly after a few emotional days. Romans 8 verse 11 declares plainly, "But if the Spirit of him that raised up Jesus from the dead dwell in you, he that raised up Christ from the dead shall also quicken your mortal bodies by his Spirit that dwelleth in you." Let that settle fully. The same Spirit that rolled the stone away and defeated death itself now moves through your ordinary days. Every room you walk into now carries weight it did not carry before. Every quiet obedience is backed by something far larger than your own effort. Ephesians 3 verse 20 promises that God is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all you could ask or imagine, according to the power already at work within you. Not someday in some distant future, but starting now in this exact season. You do not need a stage to be effective. You do not need applause to matter. What has been placed in you will show up in ordinary places, in whispered obedience, in quiet decisions no one else witnesses, and it will still shift things that need shifting. This mark on your life was never meant to fade with time. It was meant to grow heavier with every year you carry it faithfully. Wherever you find yourself right now, whether this word confirmed something you already suspected or gave language to something you had not yet named, know that you were never meant to carry any of this alone. The same Spirit that raised Christ from the grave is the Spirit steadying you in this exact moment, and he does not run out of strength halfway through the assignment. What he starts, he is faithful to finish, all the way to completion. Before we close, I want to invite you, right where you are, to join me in a wholehearted moment of prayer, not as ritual, but as response to everything we have just walked through together. Well, Heavenly Father, we come before you with reverence and open hands. You are not a distant God observing from far away. You choose to dwell inside fragile, willing people like us, and that alone humbles us completely. We lift ourselves to you, not because we feel entirely ready, but because we are genuinely willing. You have searched us, called us, and refined us, and you still say you will use us. Thank you for aiming your strength directly at our weakness, instead of waiting for us to somehow outgrow it first. We welcome what you are about to do in us, even where it feels disruptive to our comfort. Invade our routines, our decisions, our fears, our relationships. Come like fire, come like wind, and do not leave us unchanged. Holy Spirit, awaken what has been quietly dormant in us. Let boldness rise where fear used to live comfortably. Let clarity replace confusion. Let a holy restlessness break us free from passive belief and half-hearted obedience. Mark us permanently, not with popularity, but with genuine power, the kind that heals, that speaks truth plainly, that brings heaven's reality into ordinary earth. Let us walk with real authority rather than performance, carrying substance rather than mere appearance. Father, we say yes. Not the easy version, but the costly one. Yes to assignments we do not fully understand yet. Yes to timing we would not have chosen ourselves. Yes to becoming genuinely useful to your kingdom rather than merely comfortable within our own. Strengthen what feels weak in us right now and steady what feels uncertain. Where doubt has tried to convince us we are unqualified, remind us that qualification was never the point. Willingness always was. Teach us to walk in expectation without arrogance, in boldness without pride, and in authority that stays rooted in humility rather than performance. Help us stay near to you in the middle of activity. Keep our hearts soft and our ears tuned toward your voice, long after this specific prayer ends. Use us for freedom, not merely for recognition. In Jesus' name, amen. If this word stirred something real in you, I would love for you to like this video, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear that heaven has not forgotten them. You never know who has been quietly waiting for exactly this kind of reminder. Thank you for walking through this with me. Go carry what you have just received and let it change the rooms you enter. May God confirm every step ahead of you and finish what He has so faithfully begun.